One of the most challenging problems seniors face is social isolation. At some point, as we age, most of us will lose our ability to drive, which also means we can't be as involved in social activities. You may lose a spouse or friends, but perhaps you have access to a shuttle or van, but only for your medical appointments. And for you younger viewers with parents or grandparents who are alone, even if they say they're fine, they may not tell you everything because they don't want to burden you. They know you're busy, you're working. Social isolation is actually a serious health risk for seniors, and we need to talk about it. We all know that staying safe, especially during health crises like COVID-19, was important. But what if I told you that long-term isolation can be just as dangerous as some chronic diseases? Research shows that social isolation increases the risk of early death, even when someone doesn't feel lonely. And it's not just about feeling lonely, it's about survival. It's linked to higher stress, depression, and unhealthy habits, which can all lead to serious health issues. This is my most challenging video to produce to date. It involves several people and a cause I really believe in, even though I didn't know about it 3 months ago. I have a chapter guide in the description if you need to skip to a specific point, but I really recommend you watch this all the way through if you can. Also, please note that closed captions are available. Should I say, closed captions are available? Just find the CC button somewhere around the frame of this video, depending on whether you're watching this on a smartphone, a computer, a laptop, TV. This all started about 3 months ago when I saw a video from a group that went into retirement homes and introduced some seniors to virtual experiences. They could virtually take them to see the home and neighborhood where they grew up, or perhaps travel to a country they always wanted to visit. Since many of you are seniors and I'm always looking for interesting opportunities you may enjoy, I decided to look into it myself. So I bought an entry-level MetaQuest 3S, as you see here. Initially in my exploration, I found some some games, some worlds as they're called, that were frankly noisy and irritating with kids running around. That didn't interest me. But I could tell already that there was a lot more possible in VR, but where were the seniors? On Facebook, I found a couple of groups for seniors who enjoyed VR. One of them, called Thrive Pavilion, was very organized. They had activities every week that you could join to interact with other seniors in VR. I found the missing element that made VR so useful to seniors: community. The reason they're so organized is that it's backed by a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping seniors live happy and hopefully longer lives due to the social network Thrive provides. So stick around because I'm going to show you how it helps seniors combat social isolation, build friendships, and create real communities in ways that were never possible before. There's one challenge in showing you what VR is like here on YouTube, because we aren't in VR now, and a three-dimensional image in a YouTube video is, well, flat. As an example, here's my avatar.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Thrive Pavilion.
I know it doesn't look much like me.
What do you mean I don't look like you? I am you.
Not yet, you aren't. I don't have the headset on yet.
Okay, well, hurry and put on the headset, okay?
To truly understand and feel the connection, you need to try it out. Imagine sitting around a virtual campfire, telling stories with friends, or watching a movie together in a virtual theater, chatting with you just like you would in real life in your living room. These aren't just fun distractions. They're meaningful experiences that help people feel connected, even when mobility or health issues make in-person gatherings difficult. Even if you're totally bedridden, your avatar can be running, jumping, and interacting with others in VR. It's very liberating in a lot of ways. I've personally experienced so many incredible activities in VR. I've gone bowling with friends, attended a Jeopardy style quiz night, even watched a slide presentations of travels to different countries, all while chatting with people from around the world. These friendships feel as real as the ones that we have outside of VR. VR is more like being with someone than either phones, texting, or Zoom. It negates distance while embracing companionship. Enough of me trying to explain what interaction is like in VR. Let's go meet our panel of people from the Thrive community.
Thank you all so much for joining me. And so, first thing I'd like to do is start with Elena over here to my left and have you each give the name that you prefer and just something short about yourself.
Hi, I'm Elena Beth, either way. I love creative stuff. I love tech. I love people. I also love being able to say bye bye to people and be alone. And VR offers all of that.
And my name's Lizzie. VR offers me an opportunity to get out of the house virtually and to meet people, socialize, play, learn things. It's like an open door.
Hi, I'm Chuck Lee. I am retired from the mental health field. I also live alone and I am a gadget freak. I love tech. And so I've been doing VR since cardboard. It is the same for me. It is, I live in the north. There's a lot of snow on the ground right now. And so it's a nice way to get out of the house without a snow accident.
Hi, my name's Pat. I'm 85 years old. I love my VR. I got it right after my husband died, and it gave me new friends, and I was able to take it with me when I moved from Florida to Wisconsin. Took all my friends with me, of course. I was a dietitian and a ceramic artist. Now I'm a VR champ.
Oh, that's great.
I'm Julie, aka Queenie. I have been on VR for about a year. I've been a medical transcriptionist for 30 years, back to the point of those of you who are my age probably remember wax belts that we transcribe medical reports off of. And then later in life, I went on to become a software engineer, happily retired, and VR was my transportation out of the house when we're a one-car family and my husband still works.
I usually go by Lebo, it's my last name. There's really two versions of me sitting here. On one hand, I grew up in Silicon Valley. I just finished half a century teaching the evolution of the modern world at the college level. My last classes, I was talking about VR. On the other hand, I'm a 75-year-old retiree, and I see all of this as insurance in terms of cognitive health, avoiding social isolation. So on one hand, I'm an academic looking at what's going on, and the other, I'm a person who finds this an extraordinarily attractive world, as I am less able to get out, as is the case with others.
I think it's great to see the cross section that we have. Did any of you get invited by a friend into the VR? How did you first find out about it?
I've heard about it for a long time, including when you were talking about the cardboard. It always intrigued me, but always seemed like it either was too clunky or too expensive. I also didn't want to be like tethered to a computer. When the pandemic happened, I was just sitting reading newspapers and saw in the Times someone talking about an experience that they had in VR, where there were live actors interacting with them and where they were able to travel. And I was like, wait, what? This is more than I thought it was. I thought it would be like a cool game or you put on a Viewmaster for a moment, but this was like more. And because of the pandemic, I thought, you know what? I can rationalize paying what wasn't really that much for this way for me to travel while I'm sitting at home, and didn't even understand until I was in the headset and starting to find Facebook groups and stuff where people were saying, "Oh, we're gonna have a meetup." And I was like, "What?" The first meetup I went to, there was a circle of people like this, but it was many more, and we were all standing. And I was such a baby, I didn't even know how to navigate, how to use my controller to move forward, backward, and turn around. And people immediately started to help me, and it was wonderful.
Pat?
I had read about I have a girlfriend, a fellow potter on Facebook, it's sort of an acquaintance that had gotten a VR a few years ago, and I kept reading about she kept raving about meeting other people, going to other countries and seeing the world and doing exercise classes and all these different things. I kept saying to my husband, "We should get a VR. I think we'd probably like it." And we talked about it, but we never did. So when he died in the middle of December 2 years ago, and I was grief-stricken and lonely and isolated, and I immediately thought of that, and I thought, "I'm gonna get one for myself just to help me get through." I ordered it, and it came, and I decided I'm gonna set it up on New Year's Eve day just to keep my mind busy. I did, and New Year's Day was the first day I went on my VR. And I loved it right away. You could travel and see things and do things. I'm not a game player. I never played games, and I still don't on my phone or anything else like many people do. So I didn't get it for that reason. But I found the Thrive group and I found the group on Facebook, and they have all these different activities and meetings and social. And I made the best friends that I ever made in my whole life. In fact, I made one very, very best friend. And not only do we meet on VR, but we also socialize on Messenger and Facebook, and we craft together,
Oh, that's
not in
awesome.
person because she lives in New York, but I was so isolated after my husband died because we were best friends and we did everything together. And now I've moved. I lived 50 years in Florida, and in June, I moved to Wisconsin because my family is here, so but I was able to take all my friends with me in VR. It was like, no matter where you go, what you do, I've heard of people actually being on VR in a cruise. Yeah, it's really just wonderful, and I try to explain it to other people, and you cannot explain it. It's
Right.
almost impossible.
Yeah, it really has to be experienced.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
see it on a
Mhm.
screen, on TV, YouTube, doesn't work.
I started in VR last winter because I was recently retired. Being the winter doldrums in the north, I was just curious, and I always loved tech. I had a cardboard. I have a 3D projector and screen because I love 3D movies, and I've always had computers since 1996, I think. The way I got into computers was that I was a mom of 3 children, 2 of them under 2, and my husband worked
Mhm.
buku hours, and I was alone all the time, and I decided to buy a computer, and because it was like an intellectual exercise for me, something to do with my brain besides baby talk. And
Right.
it really became like a passion. I learned how to build them, and then when I started getting good at it, I got my mom, who lived in New York when I was in Connecticut, to get one so we could email each other. We used to play games by email. So
Yeah.
so I was here again in another position where I had no one to talk to and no intellectual pursuits. And I was looking at the headset for that reason. I saw Thrive for the first time. So I joined Thrive before I even ordered the headset. And then
Oh,
I ordered it.
that's
It took 3
fantastic.
weeks to come, and the first thing I did in VR was come in here, and it's been way more than I would have ever imagined. I got it to
Right.
play some games. I ended up getting a social life. I do exercises. We have a Tai Chi class that we do 3 times a week. So it's curiosity, intellectual, it's physical, it's social. It's really been so much for me because I live alone. I have no friends in this area, no family in this area. It's just me, except my
Right.
mom, who lives downstairs. She's 90 and she's also in VR. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's great.
it has been a world, a huge world.
It's a very nurturing community. Once you come in, there's a lot of things you have to learn. Though I must say my Apple Watch is much more complicated. But people help others to learn how to do stuff. Wolf Dancer helped me with a challenge I was having a couple of weeks ago.
My daughter actually said, my middle-aged daughter, who's she's a retired veteran and a foster mom of challenge. There's a lot of challenges there. And she got one. Says, "Mom, you need to get this," because she uses hers to just go get away. Was because of COVID, basically a work at home mom, and she had no way to get away. So she could go be in a quiet place and not be at home. And that's one of the things I like. I'm
Yeah.
home all the time, but I can put this headset on and I can go somewhere and not
Right.
feel like I'm still sitting at home and being bored.
Right.
So
Thrive Pavilion as a group, we meet here in this world in an application called Horizon Worlds. There are many, 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 many worlds in Horizon Worlds, and people will get together and, for example, meet in an escape room world. And it's, they have to work together to escape from the world. Or last night, a bunch of us were in a game show world where we were playing $100,000 Pyramid. But also there are other apps, and
She's
we
gonna
will
mention
often
golf.
meet here. Yeah, exactly. I know, because golf is like my thing. I love walkabout mini golf, and we've had tournaments here. There are people that I got to meet playing golf, walkabout mini golf, that every week I just got to know them better and better, and I fell in love with some of them. And there were a couple that live in different parts of the UK. And once the world did open up again and we could actually travel, it kind of went the opposite of what I was saying before. I could travel, and I went in person and stayed with each of these two people in the UK. And
Nice.
it's wonderful. So it works, both directions.
Let me reinforce something that Pat said a few minutes ago. Pat said she didn't like games. People associate this world with games. I can't
Right.
stand mini golf, and I hate computer games. I look for for me, an idea of a good time is a seminar, which sounds a little strange, but that intellectual part, those conversations, are also part of this world.
Right.
It's absolutely extraordinary. You can jump into one of the programs and go back and visit your childhood home. You can wander
Right.
around Paris. I mean, literally wander around Paris.
Or you could snorkel and go under the sea. I
Exactly.
mean, it's like amazing.
And
A lot of people here, this is obviously a senior group. Some of us will remember the Kick the Can Twilight Zone episode, where the older people suddenly got another shot at being able to run around and play. For me, it's that Twilight Zone episode.
Counting the years, we always had something to look forward to. Another dawn, another day, another summer, another game of kick the can.
I love to fly. Chuck Lee actually has a reputation when we hop around
For jumping. Mountains.
Yeah, I've seen him do it.
Well, I like
You
parkour.
should do it.
Parkour. But I think the thing that is like, I got into thinking, well, I'll play some games, and I'm not really that into computer games, but it's so much more fun playing games with other people than all by yourself.
there's a puzzle world that we can go in by yourself. And build a great big puzzle on a great big wall, or you can go in with a group of people and kind of build the puzzle together as a group. I ended up starting to create worlds because I thought it was fascinating to put shapes together and make it look like something real. I started building worlds for Thrive Pavilion. We have a monthly birthday party. We had a New Year's Eve party. So there's a lot of us senior citizens that actually are world builders here.
A particularly beautiful spot where I can go and listen to an Audible book, because you can pull it up in this. So I can be in someplace far more interesting than my condo. And
Oh, nice.
it's an incredible experience.
I found a spot where you could go up in space and look at the Earth turning below you. I just stayed there for a long time, just mesmerized with watching the planet.
Some of the worlds are so gorgeous. And there's actual meditation apps on the Quest that
Yes.
I go to. I do a trip all the time. called
Actually,
Trip.
most of my exercise, and I've wanted to exercise all my life, never been able to keep it going, except for I've been on VR various versions about 10 years. It's within VR using exercise apps that I have been able to continue to do it every day.
Right.
So it's had an extraordinary impact on my health. And I don't know why, but there was something about VR that allowed me to do those exercise apps and show up the next day. And it's worked. Nothing else worked.
So how many days per week would you estimate that you get into VR?
7.
7.
7.
Oh, wow.
Depends on what I'm doing, but it could be 7.
Because you're not doing the same thing. You're
Right.
I
Yeah.
am.
you're exercising, you're doing mini golf, you're in a nice environment listening to a book. It's not a single behavior. It much more
Right.
parallels the wide range of behaviors and allows you to do things you can't do in the real world. I had an excellent time hanging around at the top of Mount Everest recently.
But you look at the 360 3D videos, and there is nothing closer to actually being there.
And
Yes,
for
young
those
and
of you people that like to fish, there is a fishing app that we go to that takes you to real places. The imagery is if
yeah.
so my husband and I, now that he finally got his Oculus, we'll sit and fish because that's
Yeah.
what we like to do in real life.
That's actually very relaxing.
In my experience, the learning element in VR is extraordinarily less demanding, regardless of
Right.
how much technology background you have.
Mm.
I mean, I'm serious. I cannot figure out how to use my Apple phone. But this is a lot easier.
It has been easier teaching my mom to use the
Yeah, your
VR
mother's
headset.
90.
She's 90, and I've been
I've
teaching
met her
her to
mother.
use it, and she's doing better with the headset than it took me forever to teach her to use a smartphone.
Oh,
But she's
great.
picking up the headset very
It's
easily.
because we move just like we do in real life. We don't have to look at a code or do strange things. We move our hand, we move our hand. We move our head moves, our body moves. We go forward and backwards. So it's kind of intuitive.
There's a very powerful therapeutic element. I have a problem with heights. I've had it all my life. There is a program that has you climbing on mountains and buildings. I literally used it and it helped reduce my anxiety with heights. So this can have a real therapeutic element.
I
that you wouldn't
used to
anticipate.
have acrophobia, and because of it being in here, I don't anymore. I fear of
Because he's
heights.
always climbing up things.
Yeah,
Great.
and flying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same
Wow,
effect.
I
I just
never
used a
worked
formal
with that.
program for climbing.
Yeah.
And you jump off a skyscraper and you don't get hurt.
No.
Run into
I do.
several
I
people who have
believe that
social
it's a-
anxiety disorder, and they use this because it's much more comfortable socializing here than it is for them to do it in
Oh,
reality.
absolutely.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yeah.
people say that.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm thinking about the world of, let's say, PTSD. One can, in this environment, and I used to do it in real life, take a vet and take them back and walk around Vietnam. Imagine the power of that in a therapeutic sense.
How would you describe it? And I realize this is a tough question. If you have friends that don't understand VR, how do you
Hard.
describe it to them?
I have tried to talk my friends into trying it, and I have had no luck at all.
That's
I
my
have
biggest
not either.
disappointment. I
Yeah,
need
yeah,
new
me
friends I care about, but the people I already care about who live far away, I can't talk them into it.
With my experience with a neighbor down the street who's older than me and absolutely refuses to even fathom the thought of doing this, she's not ready. I think you may come to a point in your life where you can no longer drive. When you come to that moment where you don't have a car to get yourself around, Uber gets expensive, then the interest may come around of having an alternate way of socializing.
But the fundamental bottom line is you can't explain it. You have to
Mhm.
experience it.
You have to
There aren't
do
that
it.
many things in life that simply must be experienced. But
Yeah.
a bit like, yeah, you can talk about wandering around the surf, but you really have to get in or you'll never get it.
About half of us that are in this group are in the Thrive Players. It's like our drama club. We've put on Hamlet, Murder Mystery. We most recently did A Christmas Carol. I got to be Scrooge, which I couldn't do in real life.
Entertaining,
You know that.
One of the nicest things is the price of admission isn't very expensive compared to our iPhones and all these other things. These things are really very inexpensive.
I want to thank all of you for being a part of this. Hopefully we'll be able to express just what it means to the people that are watching. I feel like I'm in a room with all of you. Even though
Yeah.
I know many of you are miles and miles away, it feels like you're right here. And I'm
Yes.
talking to you. And I
Right.
really enjoy that.
That's right.
Right. What do you mean?
It doesn't feel any different to me. Okay, there's an avatar, but it's like going to a costume party. And after a while, the avatar is the person.
Thank you again. I appreciate you all taking the time to talk to me.
Thank
And
you.
thank you.
All right, it was fun. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, jump, Chucky.
Chuck plays really good.
And I'm 75. I haven't made a jump like that in a very long
Not at all. I go on roller coasters.
We now have the live portion of our interviews. I'm here with Rob Signori, who's the founder of Thrive Pavilion. Rob, can you tell me, first of all, just what inspired you to start the Thrive Pavilion?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely happy to share this story. Really started during the pandemic. So back then, pre-pandemic and through the pandemic and afterwards, I was the chief product officer for a company that made technology that went into CCRCs for retirement homes, independent living, assisted living, etc. And certainly doing, a lot of work in that industry and with aging adults. One of the big things that attracts people to a CCRC, particularly to independent living, is the ability to socialize, right? Had a built-in social network. So as people's social network diminishes over age, or over time as we age, the appeal of the activities that are built into the CCRC community are a real attractor. Well, what happened during the pandemic was all that stopped. So when the pandemic started, even if you were living in a very active community, you were essentially stuck in your apartment. And so there was isolation even among these communities. So that's half of the story. So what I was doing in my professional life was working with older aging adults in CCRCs. The other half, of course, was my personal life, right? So during the pandemic, we all were socially isolated. And for us, my personal story for my family is I have two older children that are adults that live far away from us. So at the time, my daughter was living in San Diego. I live in North Carolina. And then I have a son that lives overseas. So we did all the normal, usual things that everybody did during the pandemic to stay connected with our family and loved ones, Zoom calls, FaceTime, all those things. It's funny, you'd get off of those calls and sometimes you'd feel worse, you'd miss them more. But what I started to do there is I had bought a VR headset just to play around with, do some exercise, etc. But I also bought one for my daughter and I sent it to her. And we started to socialize. We, played a few games. One night, I'm sitting with my wife in the den, and I'm online with my daughter, and we're playing this game where you had to make sandwiches. So people come up to the window, you had to make the order, etc. Beat the clock, and evidently we were getting loud. It was like when I took the headset off, my wife was like, "What on earth are you guys doing?" So I told her what we were doing, and she's like, "Oh, I'd like to join you guys if I can." I said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." I had an older headset. So the next night we all got on together and we all played this game together, all three of us. My wife is there with my daughter. She's high-fiving her. They're laughing, having a good time, whatnot. When my wife took her headset off, she said something that sticks with me to this day. She said, I know my daughter wasn't there. I know she wasn't there, but it sure felt like she was. And that's really where the light bulb went off. And it's like, okay, the pandemic obviously is going to end, and it's going to end for most people, and certainly for people living in independent living and whatnot. But there are a significant amount of older adults still living at home that are isolated, right? The number is, several million that are over the age of 65 that suffer from some form of social isolation. So I thought this potentially really could be a good use of the technology to really focus on that problem. That's the problem that we specifically focused on when we started Thrive. So my family founded a nonprofit organization back in April of 2022, really with the goal of overcoming social isolation. And that's what started the Thrive Pavilion. That's how it came to be. It was really the experiences out of the pandemic, both in my personal life and my professional life.
Do you have any specific goals in mind?
Our goal really is to be able to reach many older adults as possible. It's a very scalable technology, and scalability meaning that we're not necessarily a technology company, even though we do have built some stuff in VR and whatnot, and we will continue to do that where it makes sense. Really, what Thrive is more, if I think of it more as like a dating platform. Like we don't make, if you go to a dating site, they don't build the restaurants or the bowling alleys or the theaters or stuff like that, right? They just kind of coordinate the activities, and that's what we do. So we're just getting people together, providing some education, etc. So really, we do have the scalability to reach into the tens of thousands, into the hundreds of thousands of older adults as this technology matures, becomes more accessible. so that we really can have thriving community or communities where people get to make friends. It's interesting. You had mentioned the word friends and how welcoming and friendly everybody is. When we think about it at Thrive, or when we started it, we talked about isolation and loneliness and all those, maybe some more clinical things. The members talk about fun, laughter, and friendship is how they describe it. And that's really what we're after, right? It's not that, oh, I feel less lonely. Some people may say I was alone or feeling lonely or isolated. When they talk about what they're doing and who they're meeting, they're talking about fun, laughter, and friendships. So that's really at the end of the day what we're after.
Yeah, very much so. Is there anything else that you would like to tell the viewers of this channel?
A lot of the activities, although when we started, we had to think of all the activities to kind of come up with what we thought people would like. And we still do that. But what we've noticed over time as the community grows is the community members are bringing the things that they enjoy from the physical world into the virtual world. So things like our book club or things like our theater group, lots of our exercise classes, things that the escape room clubs, a lot of the clubs that have shown up, those are all run and inspired entirely by members. So not only is Thrive providing a way for people to socialize and connect, it's a way for them to for people to do the things that they have liked to do, but now do them in the virtual world now where it may be difficult to do it. So many of our activities now are actually completely run by our members, which is great to see because it really means it's their community. It's a shared community. It's a shared experience. They have ownership in it from feeling like it's theirs. People will joke sometimes, don't ask Rob if Thrive could do something because he's going to turn it right around and say, of course we can if you do it, right? But people have taken that, and so they have become very involved, just not as members, but as in running activities and welcoming new people.
Thank you very much, Rob. I appreciate your time. I've talked to many people. I've had some wonderful conversations, and I'll continue to do so. And I hope to have more videos like this in the future. So
Absolutely.
I'll take it from here.
Yeah. Thanks, Alicia.
I hope this video has given you a new perspective on what VR can offer beyond gaming. It's not just a tech gimmick. It's a way to stay connected, make new friends, and be a part of a real thriving community. If you or someone you know is feeling isolated, I highly encourage you to check out Thrive Pavilion. Go to the website and see the testimonials of seniors who have benefited from their interaction with Thrive. Then join the Facebook group or Instagram and see all the activity. When you decide to become a part of it, you'll just need a VR headset. You can use the $299 MetaQuest 3S or the $499 MetaQuest 3 that has a little more memory and somewhat better resolution. Notice that they both have these dark spots or slots on the front. That isn't just cosmetic. These are lenses that allow you to have pass-through or mixed reality where you can see all or part of the room you're in mixed with VR graphics. I have links for them both in the description below. If you've ever tried VR for social connection, let me know in the comments. Do you think more seniors should be exploring this space? I do. That's why I produce this video. Let's keep this conversation going. So subscribe to this channel and feel free to share this video with any of your friends. And come join the Crap online community through the Buy Me a Coffee link. There's a link in the description below. Through that service, you can now stay connected, just $2 a month, just to cover the cost of hosting this on Buy Me a Coffee. Until next time, stay connected, stay curious, and as always, crap, tech for everyone.